As a new manager, how do you get your team to respect your authority? This is one of the biggest questions that new managers have. What makes the real jump from doer to leader so difficult? Because as a doer, you're responsible for your performance. As a leader, it's other people's performance that determine your results. So how do you get the authority? This is all about creating a frame for how we relate to each other individually and as a whole. It's all about relationships. So I'm going to try and give you everything I've learned about people in the last 30 years and 8 years hyper-focused on relationships in this 15-minute video. So we're going to run through the authority builder pathway. Relationships are all about connection. It's, do we feel connected or do we feel distant? Our level of connection is what frames the level of trust and respect that we have. And this is the environment for all of our communication. It doesn't matter what we say if we feel suspicious, if we don't trust you, if we don't respect each other. So creating that frame is the frame within which healthy and good communication exists. Without this, your team don't see you as an authority. There's a lack of trust and respect, not just to you, but within the team. The end result of that is tasks just aren't going to be getting done on time because there's going to be different agendas, there's going to be conflicts, there's going to be personality differences. And if you do this right, your team are going to look to you to lead. There's going to be trusting, respectful relationships, not just with you, but amongst peers in the team. And the end result of that is tasks that get done on time to standard, because that's what happens. When we have trust and we have respect, we get things done. The big mistakes I see are managers trying to be overly friendly, trying to be friends, or being too authoritarian, or it's this kind of contrived team building that let's go out and have drinks, or let's have this team building day. Relationships are framed by the purpose by which we have them. We join relationships because we gain something. We join romantic relationships because we want a life partner. We have friends because we want to have fun. Our relationships at work are framed by what do we want to achieve. And this is individually as well as the collective. So people will want security. They might be ambitious and want growth. They might want to achieve something. They want to feel that something is meaningful. So authority is like Wi-Fi. When connection drops, it's really hard to get anything done. So we need to know, what does good and bad look like? In a good environment, people thrive. There's trust, there's respect, and there's natural authority for you, because it's not necessarily that you know the most, it's that you can create the frame that other people can thrive. When you can, that's what gives you authority. So you might get authority from your position, but it's really hard to rely on that. And if you always have to say, I'm the boss and you do this, it's like a parent saying, just because. Yes, you can get like that, but ultimately it's the climate that you create makes people look to you and want to follow you. And when they want to follow you, you have engagement. And this is a large part of why businesses have 85% of disengaged employees, because the climate creates this disengagement. When this isn't going well, it's a climate of survival. Everyone's out for themselves. There's suspicion, there's rumors, there's contempt. And ultimately, in order to get anything done, you have to rely on fear. Machiavelli said that fear is better than respect. And it is in certain contexts. But when you want engagement, most of us work in knowledge work now. And when you want that creativity, you want that engagement, you want the whole of someone, not just them turning up to do a job. So what we see here is a graph. Now, the question I hate getting is people say, is that personal or professional relationships? What's the difference? Yes, there's a significant difference, and romantic relationships are a specific type, but it doesn't mean that we relate anything different. So 8 years of studying relationships, and I ultimately came to the conclusion that a great relationship is a great team, and great relationships make a great team. Yes, there's elements of a romantic relationship that we don't expect from work, but relationships are all about how do people relate to each other, and people relate in order to get something. We want to share our life, we want to feel loved, we want to be part of something, so we join romantically. In work, we join because we want to belong to something, we want to feel valued, and we want to do something meaningful that we can't do on our own. So the dynamics of relationship are still the same. Now, what we see here is the graph of how marriages go, and this is why 50% of them end in divorce. So initially, there's a kind of a spike where things go up, the honeymoon period, and then we notice a gradual decline. Now, what's happening here is that there's conflicts, and the couple haven't known how to resolve those conflicts. And because they haven't resolved them, they've lost connection. They've stopped talking. They've stopped talking about this. They've stopped doing this. They see each other differently. Gradually, over time, there's a disenchantment. There's a breakdown of the relationship until eventually they go, they're not the person I married. They are. Just the frame of the relationship has created a different dynamic. So you see a different side of them. The environment they're in can bring out the best, or it can bring out the worst in people. And what's happened is the relationship has broken down because of a breakdown in communication, a loss of connection, which means that you're seeing the worst of someone. This is exactly the same in 70% of business partnerships break down because of a lack of trust and a breakdown in communication and the relationship. This is why 85% of employees are disengaged in the workplace, because there's a breakdown. People leave jobs because of bad bosses. And the bad bosses is because the way they frame the relationships, so the interactions are negative. If we're going to understand relationships, we have to understand the framework of relationships. 50% of people are getting divorced. 50% of married couples end up in divorce. Right? It's even higher for people who aren't married. So those same people means that at least half or more of your employees who can't maintain their romantic relationship you're then asking them to work together with a bunch of different people that they don't really have as much connection with or choose to. So we have to look at the framework that most of us have been given about relationships comes from fairy tales or Disney movies, where the prince and princess meet, they fall in love, they live happily ever after. So there's a fairy tale framework which teaches us that there's one out there for everyone, that if the princess is beautiful enough, if the prince is gallant enough, they'll fall in love. If they are the one and the love is true, they'll live happily ever after. And problems mean that this person isn't the one. So while that's very specific to a romance, we translate that to our relationships. And we think if there is a problem, it means it's the person. It means I'm just not compatible with this person. I have personality conflicts with this person. We need to reframe from the fairy tale model to the 4 relationship truths. The 4 relationship truths are that relationships are a struggle. They're a struggle because of our narratives. If we want to let go of the struggle, we have to let go of our narratives. And problems are a natural part of our clashing narratives. So we have different paths, different experiences, different goals, different journeys in life. And our conflicts are because of that. Conflict is an opportunity to understand someone more and go deeper into the relationship and create a deeper relationship and a tighter connection if we can just manage to work through that. So we need to understand now, what is the map of relationships? In trying to fix relationships and influence relationships, we need to understand the drivers of relationship satisfaction. So there's 4 drivers of all relationship satisfaction. That is, do I feel safe? Do I feel seen? Do I feel supported in my goals? And do I feel satisfied? Now, I said earlier that the relationship is framed by the purpose. The relationship is framed by the purpose with which we undertake it. Satisfaction with the relationship means, is that purpose being fulfilled? If it's a romantic relationship, I'm going to want to feel romantically enriched. I want to feel loved, cared for, sharing my life with someone. If it's a workplace, I need to be satisfied in, am I achieving something? Am I going to get promotions, and am I going to reach my career goals? Or am I getting security? Am I getting the feeling of belonging to a team that's doing something meaningful? Am I supported in my goals? So I have individual goals, and the reason I join romantically or your team is because I think I can reach my goals quicker by being part of this team than I can alone. Do I feel seen? Am I just a commodity that you could replace at any time, or am I valued for my individuality? And do I feel safe? Can I speak up without fear of being punished? Can I say what I truly feel? When these aren't met, that's when you're going to have disengagement. So they operate on a scale between safe and insecure, between seen and invisible, between feeling supported and feeling undermined, and feeling satisfied or dissatisfied. But those are the drivers. Relationships are a dance of continually changing dynamics. So what you do and say and how we respond to each other is going to determine the next steps. If I have a need to be seen, now if I'm vulnerable and I reveal something about myself and I'm met with empathy, then it develops our connection. We have a closer connection. If I don't feel safe, if I feel guarded, you treat me with insensitivity, that's going to lead to disconnection. I have a need to be safe. If you are deceitful and I don't feel I trust you, then I'm going to feel doubt and suspicion. And that's going to create an environment of anxiety. If I trust that you act with integrity and I can trust what you say, there's a relationship of trust, and that creates more freedom. If I feel you're present and I feel you're with me and I respond with appreciation, then that develops respect. If you are kind and I respond with loyalty, then we have an honest and a deeper relationship. If you criticize or you're contemptuous of me, then I'm going to, and I stonewall or I'm defensive, that's going to relate in a climate of hostility and poor communication. Relationships are a continual infinite loop that we talk. It's underpinned by a central dynamic of communication. As we talk, we connect. The more that we're connected, the more that we talk, sooner or later we're going to find a point of difference. That difference is conflict. And depending on if we keep talking and we can resolve that conflict, then we have a deeper level of connection. If we don't, the relationship breaks down. So where to look when in a relationship is, does someone feel that they belong? Does someone feel that they're valued? Do they feel that what they're doing is meaningful? And in terms of interactions, the three enemies of relationships are blaming, gaming, and shaming. You blame someone for their behavior for an outcome. The opposite of that is compassion. Gaming is where you don't care about someone, but you're manipulating them. The opposite of that is feeling cared for. Shaming is where you're diminishing someone and you're saying that you're not good enough. And the opposite to that is feeling understood. So the key dynamics of relationships are to make people feel understood, to feel that they're cared for, and to feel that you're going to respond with compassion. When you can do that, you can create this frame so that this is the way that we behave in relationships. This creates the culture that will drive the performance of your team. And that is what gives you authority as a leader.